From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Meats and Grocery is much more than a grocery store. We carry a full line of quality meats, local and organic vegetables, and a large variety of fish, Green Mountain Smart Control pellet grills, and a full deli case of sandwiches and side dishes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Kruger. Thank you for joining me here for your Friday morning update. You know, that heat wave I've been talking about all week long, it kicks in today. You're going to notice that heat climbing 100 degrees or higher for the valley. And over the weekend, we're talking 106 degrees plus. And this is going to continue into Monday before we do start to see those temperatures begin to drop. We've got a gradual cooling trend through next week with highs, eventually dropping back down below normal for this time of the year. All right, for those of you that are in a hurry, just a quick look at the forecast for today. Here's your Kruger's Quickcast for your Friday, August 8th. There's the heated alerts here. We've got extreme heat watch for western Siskiyou County, heat advisory for northern Trinity County, Del Norte and Humboldt counties as well. This is going to morph. This map is going to morph all weekend long. It's going to probably include parts of the valley as well. But bottom line, it is going to be hot out there starting today through the weekend, even into early next week. But for today, you're heading out the door. It's a mild start, already close to 80 degrees for the valley by 8 o'clock in the morning. That's usually a sign that you can bet it's going to be a pretty hot day out there for the day. Low pressure is spinning over Montana right now. That's moving out. That's the area of low pressure that's kind of kept our temperatures down a bit. But now that that's moving out, it's making way for high pressure to build in, and that's going to mean those hotter temperatures. How about those winds too? Boy, they've been picking up in the morning hours and continue at least through midday. Dying down a little bit here for the afternoon, but the other thing to really take note is the fact that these are winds coming from the north. They tend to have a drying element to them as well, so that's going to really dry things out and elevate that fire weather risk too. Now, taking a look at the cloud conditions out there, sunny skies, even for the coast. Yes, the coast. You are going to see sunny skies, and you're going to have a hard time even seeing that fog developing in the overnight and early morning hours, with the exception maybe around the Humboldt Bay, the Eureka area, for example. But for today, there it is. 104 for Redding, 102 for Chico. Most likely at least 100 degrees in most spots for the valley today. Temperatures in the 80s, 90s, even some triple digits for places like Weaverville and Hayfork. Upper 60s, low 70s for the coast. Plenty of sunshine across the board, even the coast. But there's that peak of that heat wave. I'd say that really we're in it right now, or in it through today. It peaks Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday before temperatures do start to drop back down to the 90s by the middle of next week. For the coast, upper 60s, low 70s through the weekend. Temperatures do drop back down to the mid 60s by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Inland and for Trinity County, you're at 100 degrees today, all the way through most likely at least Monday, if not even into Tuesday, before temperatures do start to drop. And taking a look at Siskiyou, Modoc County, the Eastern Mountains. Now, of course, Susanville, about 100 degrees here Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but upper 90s for places like Mount Shasta and Alturas. All right, that's a look at your Kruger's Quickcast. Hope you have a great day, but if you want more details on the forecast, well, let's start with those fires. I tell you what, the fires are becoming less and less of a concern, at least the three main fires that we are watching right now. Of course, the one that's most active is the Big Cliff Fire. Now, as of yesterday, 2:47 p.m., it has been upgraded to 902 acres, but also upgraded to 19% containment. We've seen over 10% containment over the last 24 hours. Always a welcome sight indeed. Just kind of want to take it closer to this fire to see where some of the most recent activity has been. The red boxes indicating the last 6 to 12 hours. So the southern and even the north end of the fire is where we've seen the bulk of the activity. Still only about 11.8 miles from Scott Valley and Etna in particular, so it hasn't moved any closer to any of those communities in Scott Valley. The Green Fire, really not a whole lot going on here, although we are getting closer and closer to 100% containment. Yesterday was 98% contained. At least last report from yesterday afternoon, 99% containment. And the Butler Fire, all of the evacuation warnings were lifted yesterday afternoon. No more evacuation warnings. We do have that fire up. It really hasn't changed as far as the acreage or the containment at 94% contained. Let's take a look at that smoke, and the Big Cliff Fire is where we're seeing most of the smoke being produced, but even the Big Cliff Fire is becoming less active, so it's not producing as much smoke. So we will see a little bit of smoke and haze around southwestern Siskiyou, northern Trinity, northeastern Humboldt, even southeastern Delaware County may see some of that smoke and haze. Some of it trying to work its way. I'd say even Scott Valley may see some of that as well. Now, I've been talking about the winds. The winds have been a little breezy in the morning hours through at least midday before they subside in the afternoon. This is a bit of a reversal of what we've seen so far for the summer, where the winds pick up in the afternoon but die down in the morning. So it's opposite of that now. And on top of that, it's more of a north wind. Now, north winds are not a very welcome sight around here because they can really tend to dry things out even more on top of the already very dry conditions. So that's going to elevate the fire weather risk, especially in the valley. Now, when we look at the orange colors in there, that's pretty standard for us this time of the year. We don't really want to get into those reds and purples, and we certainly aren't going to be in that, but I will say this: the fire weather risk is a little bit more elevated than it has been for a while, simply because we're really warming things up and we've got that heat wave coming through for this weekend. So we do have that elevated fire weather risk as a result. All right, that's a look at your Kruger's Quickcast and the latest on the fires. Now let's just kind of get into the deeper dive forecast. Before we do that, quick reminder that you have access to a 24-hour streaming channel on YouTube, Fire Stick, Roku. Anywhere YouTube's available, really, you can always access it. And what I like about the YouTube app is the fact that not only can you watch the 24-hour channel that you see here, but you can watch on demand the latest video forecast as well. It's also available on weathernorcal.com. You can watch that 24-hour streaming channel on the free Weather NorCal app as well. So before we get into all of this, we need to remind ourselves that, a lot of people have been making the comment, and this is true. It's been a mild summer, comparatively speaking, and so our bodies are more acclimated to these cooler temperatures, if you will. So we're going to be looking at some of the biggest heat we've seen in a while, several weeks, really over a month since we've seen anything significant as far as heat is concerned, and our bodies are acclimated to that. So when we get up to 105, close to 110 degrees, that can be a shock to the system. So just a friendly reminder, this is not me overreacting or being over alarmist. I just want to give you a friendly reminder. Remember water, sunscreen, wear light and loose fitting clothing, take breaks in the shade, and always remember to check on the elderly, young children, and pets. Children don't slow down in the heat, so you got to make sure that they do slow down, they take breaks, and they drink plenty of water. This map is going to be morphing today. It's going to be morphing through the weekend as well. This just is basically saying the Weather Service is on it. They're seeing that there is some heat out there, and we need to be aware of that. This is also an algorithm that comes out of the National Weather Service. It's known as the heat risk map. So oranges are typically where it is moderate. So moderate is really the biggest concern here for today. It affects most people sensitive to heat, especially without proper cooling and or hydration. Now what you'll notice is that orange is beginning to spread more even into the mountains. We're also beginning to see some reds, which means it affects most people. It infects almost everybody when you start getting the reds. So just be aware of that. And then we go into Sunday, it expands even more. Now even into the eastern mountains, you're seeing more reds on the map, indicating that major heat risk as well. So this heat wave is going to extend and get hotter as we go through the weekend and even into early next week before temperatures finally do start to drop. So where is all of this heat coming from? Well, first let's talk about this. This right here is what has kept our temperatures below normal, if you will, through this week. But as that moves out, that's making way for this ridge of high pressure to build in and really expand and grow. So the main bubble of heat is still off to our west, which is good. We do not want this on top of us, because then we're talking temperatures well over even 110 degrees most likely, but that's not the case. This, though, is expanding into Northern California. That's getting us in the 105, close to 110 degree range for the valley. We also have some heat over the desert Southwest that's kind of extending into our region. They're kind of working together. You see what's happening for next week. This is beginning to get pushed off to the west. Why? Because look at this. You see this little disturbance? That is beginning to ride over the east side of that ridge and really just push that back into its place. This will eventually also push the heat from the desert Southwest back over the desert Southwest. And look where we are. Yeah, by the middle and latter part of next week, a nice little trough of low pressure. That's going to drop our temperatures back down below normal once again towards the middle and latter part of next week. So yes, we've got about 4 days of this heat wave before this begins to be our saving grace and allow our temperatures to drop again. And that continues really even through the end of next week. So when we look at that 10-day trend for Redding, there it is. 1, 2, 3, those 4 days I was talking about. But then temperatures really start to drop and they plummet as we get towards the end of next week and even into that next weekend. We're talking low 90s. Of course, it's a long way out. We'll see what happens, but it certainly is promising. So again, this is the area of low pressure that's kept our temperatures down a bit. As it moves out, it is making way for this. That's the ridge of high pressure building in. That's the heat that we'll be dealing with here over the weekend and, of course, starts today. Let's talk about the cloud cover because, the coast, you're going to be looking at sunny skies. You're going to be hard-pressed to even see any fog overnight, with the exception of maybe around Eureka, Humboldt Bay, for example. But even Saturday morning, you've got sunny skies. That fog may return a little bit out near Eureka late in the day Saturday, maybe a few partly cloudy skies, but you can see that quickly dissipates as we go into your Sunday. Sunday looking like another gorgeous day. So, gorgeous weekend for you on the coast. If you live anywhere that's hot, that might be a nice weekend retreat for you here this weekend. All right, let's take a look at your lake levels, and we're continuing to watch them drop as normal, right? That's normal this time of the year. 69% lake level here capacity, 84% for Trinity Lake and Oroville, about 77%. But once again, that historical average is still over 100%, so we'll certainly take that. Look at the wave heights. They are starting to increase. That's because we've got those pretty strong winds, larger waves here over the weekend, so just be aware of that. There is a small craft advisory for those of you that are going to be on a small boat, but there you can see those winds from the north at about 20 to 25 knots. Your waves from the north at 8 feet at 8 seconds, and from the west at 2 feet at about 10 seconds. All right, here's your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. And Trinity County is going to be looking at temperatures 100 degrees or higher. That's your neighborhood forecast for Trinity County. Upper 90s, over 100 degrees. Even Ruth, about 95 degrees. Not bad for Mad River, though, at 89. But there it is. It peaks Saturday, Sunday, Monday, but then temperatures back down to the 90s by the middle and latter part of next week. Here's your North Coast neighborhood forecast, brought to you by Dignity Health. 79 degrees in Blue Lake, 97 for Garberville and Alder Point, and 73 degrees for Rio Dell. So notice the coast, right? You're looking at those temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s through Monday, but then those temperatures will start to drop for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Inland, yeah, it's peaking around Sunday, right? And then temperatures still pretty hot on Monday before they do start to drop towards Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, also sponsored by Dignity Health. Temperatures in the 80s and 90s for your daytime highs for today, right? But then we're in the upper 90s for Sunday, Monday, and then temperatures start to drop back down again for next week. Modoc County neighborhood forecast, 84 degrees for Tule Lake, 87 for California Pines and Eagleville, about 86 degrees. Eastern Mountains neighborhood, 90 in Chester, 87 out in Westwood. There's Paradise at about 94 and 91 degrees in Shingletown. Here's your Dignity Health Valley neighborhood forecast. Temperatures around 100 degrees for the south end of the valley, but as you start heading northward, those temperatures will be hotter. Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast for Chico. There's the peak on Sunday, but temperatures start to drop. Low 90s return by Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday, that is. All right, here's your Valley neighborhood forecast to the north. All right, a little bit warmer, but 104 out towards Redding, 100 in Lakehead, 103 for Red Bluff and Whiskeytown, about 100 degrees. There's your 7-day forecast for Redding. There's the peak on Sunday, but not much of a drop on Monday with a high of 107 degrees on Monday, but temperatures dropping into the mid to upper 90s by Wednesday and Thursday. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon. Have yourselves a great morning.
Construction season is well underway in the North State, and we'd like to remind drivers to slow down around work zones. Keep Caltrans workers safe when they're on the job, and remember to be work zone alert when you see the color orange. Remember to pay attention to signs, merge early, avoid distractions, and don't speed. This message is brought to you by Caltrans District 2.